We just need to make sure we don't always get carried away with that enthusiasm and look at some of the other people that are being affected. So if you like, from the sort of technical innovation point of view, it's sort of like teaching manners. You know, it's like, you know, say, well, you know, who are you affecting and how are they going to feel about it? You know, it's not always just about, you know, how their lives will improve. What else might it impact on what they do? We took inspiration actually from the business model canvas, which brings some business considerations and puts it in the hands of innovators in a very easy to use, easily updatable, easily iteratable format. So, well, that works well for business. Why don't we just take that form and apply it to ethics? I think it can be a real benefit for, you know, as a way of engaging between, if you like, the tech specialists and the engineers and other people, you know, whether they're the entrepreneurs, the business-focused people, or the, you know, perhaps people looking at, you know, promotion and reputation, or anybody else in the organisation who feel they have a view. It gives you a nice sort of level playing field to come and bring those ideas together, because you're not relying on some overly specialised knowledge like in the way that you do for the sort of technical side of innovation. First, looking at the impacts on individuals, you know, and a lot of that is really, you know, appreciating that there can be stakeholders or people who are affected by an innovation that go beyond the users or the paying customers. Okay, so, you know, if you're, for example, had a new application that was perhaps able to sort of test your blood for diseases, well, you know, it might be able to get some characteristics of your health, but it may be able, especially if it's doing something genetic, could apply some information about the health of other people in your family. So even though they may not be using the innovation, you know, other people, relatives may be affected. So it's looking a little bit more broadly. So it's looking at that individual perspective and also looking at perhaps the relationships between individuals. And then there are more sort of group or collective impacts. So are there sort of whole classes of people that may be affected, or do you bring in new impacts that might exacerbate perhaps conflict between existing groups? So we see that, you know, for example, between existing taxi drivers and people using Uber. You know, suddenly a well-established profession is heavily impacted by a new piece of technology and a new business model. What happens if your technology goes wrong? So, you know, looking at it from you know, sort of a worst-case scenario point of view. You know, if you get hacked or it fails. You know, so if you have something that's very viral and popular and then it's not available, you know, that has an impact on people's lives, on their businesses. They may build a lot of digital applications or platforms on which people do other activities. So if something goes wrong, you affect those activities disproportionately to that application. Also, I think the environmental impact, you know, that tends to you know, be something that becomes very invisible. But, you know, certainly for most digital applications, and especially with AI use, it's huge computing power. It's all out in the cloud somewhere, so we don't get to see it. It may not even be happening in the same country. So, you know, we may not even be aware that it's, you know, our national carbon budget that's being impacted. But somewhere on the planet it is, and we need to be aware of those sort of things. And we find actually it works quite well for mixed groups of people to come together and express their concerns, because, you know, sometimes you can have people from different backgrounds coming to talk about innovation, and perhaps the guys with the engineering knowledge might sort of dominate a little bit. But once you start talking about ethics, everybody can have a view and you know, bring their thoughts to the table. We have a version of the canvas available on a software platform, so it's just a free-to-use website called ethicscanvas.org. So you can just Google it. There's a little user manual there. It's fairly self-explanatory. We've done our best to make it as accessible as possible. So you know, you can sign in with an account and save it, or you can just go and play with it and save a version that you could upload again later. So if you wanted to use it completely anonymously, that's fine. I'd say something like about sort of 15 or 20% usually will have some little pivot that they wouldn't have thought about if they didn't have about the ethics canvas. So it's not that everybody's doing terrible things, but it's just another viewpoint to inform that innovation.